Okay, let me let the people in.
Yeah,
Hold on one
and
second.
you're now recording.
We should be good to go.
Are we on now? Okay, great.
Can I call you back?
Good evening. This is the April 21st, 2021 Police Commission meeting. We'd like to open it with, let me make sure, is James on, McLaughlin on?
Yes, I'm on now.
Okay, because I can't, the way that the Zoom sets up, I can't see everybody. And Shakeba?
She's here.
She's here. Okay, great. Okay, let's go through the minutes from the previous meeting of March 17th. Any additions, corrections for those minutes?
I didn't have any.
Okay, I did not either.
I don't either.
Okay, a motion then to approve the minutes from the March 17th meeting. Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
And second, Shakeba?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great, perfect. The minutes from the special meeting from April 7th.
No changes from me.
Yeah, I didn't have any either.
I didn't either.
Okay, great. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Yeah, okay, second?
I second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Just one little nit. Jennifer, on the agenda, on item 1, minutes from its previous is misspelled.
On the agenda?
On the agenda, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's pervious. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, you read through this stuff. Thank you. We have a lawyer. All right, thanks. Monthly reports. I tell you what, let's do this because the Tiger and Tucker have got another meeting to go to.
Paul, you know what?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to withdraw that request because I realize the Maple Street discussion is probably more important and I know these folks have to get over to the town council as well. So I think you should stick with your original order.
Goes either way on that one. Yeah, I think you stick with Maple Street and then we'll get through the bump outs and then we'll go forward.
Yep.
Okay, so then why don't we do this? Why don't we then, Chief, you're on, right? Why don't we take topics for discussion first?
Yep.
And then do department monthly reports second, if that's okay.
Of course.
Do I need a motion for that?
No.
To change the agenda item? All right, so let's just do that. All right, so what we're going to do is crosswalk modification for Maple Street first, and then Tiger, and then Tucker and Tiger on the bump out section, and then we'll do the monthly reports after that. Okay. So Tiger, you're up. No, I'm sorry, Maple Street. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm sorry, library's up. And who's there from the library to address the crosswalk changes? I gotta get to the right page as well.
So I'm Chris Cardney with Langen Engineering. I'm joined with Chris McLean, also with Langen Engineering. We also have Brian Smith from Robinson and Cole. And Brian, I don't know if you want to say anything opening.
Just that we have before you the crosswalk for what is currently pending for planning and zoning for the approval of the new library. And we've been working very hard with town staff and but Chris, the two Cardinal.
Two Chris's, right?
Yeah, we'll be making the presentation on the technical details. So I leave it to you.
And in terms of logistics, do I share my screen or does someone pull up what we sent in?
I can give you permission to share your screen if you like. 1 second.
Sure.
That'd be great. And we all have copies of it in front of us too.
Okay.
You should be able to give it a try now.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, can people see that?
Yeah,
I can, Chris, and we can see you as well. Good,
all
Chris.
right, great. So just an overview of where we are. This slide shows the proposed library site to the north. It's bisected by Maple. And then Center School lot is on the south. This aerial shows a little bit better with the street names. So you can see where we are. The yellow arrows indicate inflow and outflow out of parking areas, driveways. So you can see on the library, there's a two-way here, center of Maple Street. There's a one-way in to the other parking area at the lower level. You wrap around, you can exit to the west or to the north back on Cherry. Center School lot has a two-way off of Maple, and then it has a one-way in off of South. And if anyone has questions, we can stop and discuss. This is another graphic that kind of shows that in a kind of simpler way.
Right. No, I think we're good on that.
Okay. Just highlight the aspects of the proposed site plan. You have the new library on the south side of the site with a children's garden at the corner of South and Maple. We have what we're calling a green space that takes up the majority of the lot in the northeast section, and service and loading is in the off of South Avenue. The reason why we're here today is really to talk about Maple Street and the crossing of Maple Street. There's two conditions I think we want to discuss. Today, there's an existing crosswalk, and if I go back to this plan, there's an existing crosswalk today from Center School lot, and the sidewalk here comes up here and then eventually makes its way to the entrance. In this condition, that crosswalk goes away, and we have a new crosswalk that's ADA accessible from north to south. This shows a blow up of that, and this is what we submitted originally with the application. We proposed a crosswalk, much like the one to the east was, and working with the town and discussing it further, the preference really was for a raised crosswalk to help slow traffic down. And we had always had some signage in there, so the flashing beacon signage where a pedestrian comes up and it flashes, and they're giving the right of way essentially to cross at the crosswalk. And we also have a drop-off incorporated, since there isn't a parking lot on the library site as part of this construction, that this is really kind of, it's no parking, and we've striped and signed it, and we'll get to that in a second, but it's really for pickups and drop-offs. Teens and children and elderly and many others could use this spot in a short-term way. This is a rendering showing if you were at the Center School lot looking across to the main entrance, what that kind of looks like from the crossing. And you could kind of see it in plan here. There is a stone wall. The crossing is to the east, to the west of that. You cross the street and it leads you right into the front door of the library. So working with the town and their consultant, Hardesty in Hanover, we proposed some changes. These were discussed, not yet submitted back to zoning, but this shows a raised crosswalk, and we changed some of the accessible parking. There's accessible parking on both sides of the driveway. In this plan, we relocated all those spaces to the east side of it. And also we updated the ADA to be compliant with today's standards. So striping, signage, and size, and also number. The number of spaces in Center School lot requires 6. So we're striping 6 spaces there. We've just recently, yesterday, I believe, met with the town again about this plan, and some further suggestions came out of that, which we've incorporated and intend on submitting back with the application. But really moving the accessible spaces in a line here, providing a sidewalk, a straight shot connection right up through here. And the other thing that was commented on is this paving pattern, which is an extension of the paving on site to really make this conventional concrete town standards. And so we'll be making that change as well. So this is a raised crosswalk, asphalt on either side. And then it's a paving pattern, a different material that crosses the street. And then we would add a yield to pedestrian sign similar to Maple and Main. There's one of those in the intersection. In terms of the drop off, again, this is the pickup drop off zone. It's striped, it's signed, no parking. And this edge on the north side is all accessible. It's a flush curb condition. In terms of the crosswalk, what that would look like is you have asphalt leading up, and then you have a paving pattern on top of it. And again, in terms of signage, on the left here is what we're proposing within the crosswalk. On either side of the crosswalk, the flashing beacon signage. And that really wraps up our part of the crosswalk.
Okay.
I think we should talk about just a general overview of traffic as part of this commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn it over to Chris McLean. He's going to give a brief statement about that. And if you haven't seen, Mike Galante from Hardesty Hanover is also on the call.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris McLean, also from Langen. Yeah, just wanted to give a quick overview on traffic. So as part of the submission to planning and zoning, we put together a traffic report outlining the proposed changes to kind of traffic related to the library. As part of that, back in 2018, as part of the original development for the site, we collected turning movement counts at the 4 intersections surrounding the library on Cherry, Main, South, and Maple. We also collected pedestrian and vehicle turning movement counts. So as part of the development, we expect the build year to be 2023. So we analyzed the existing background and build years for all 3 of those conditions. We looked at the afternoon, evening for a weekday, and we also looked at the Saturday midday time periods. As part of the analysis, we did level of service and queuing analysis, and we're working with Michael Galante from Hardesty in Hanover to finalize kind of his comments. He issued a comment response or a comment letter this evening, which we're looking at now. But we expect to get him comfortable with the report and his comments. And with that, I'll open it up to questions if anybody has any.
Just before we get there, Chris, and I'm going to share my screen again. Oops, if I can be permitted to do that.
Yep. 1 second. Try now.
Okay. It says disabled. I could speak without.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, because we've got all the charts.
That's fine
in front of us. So
we've been going. Now. Yep. Okay. If you can see that center school up. So we've been going back and forth with Mike Galante's office on the model and recommendations and tweaks and things like that. And one of the items that we discussed yesterday was the approach for the westbound Maple approach to south and the queuing involved. And a suggestion was made about converting the entrance only driveway to center school lot into a conventional two-way. And what that does is people making a left out of the parking lot can bypass Maple and enter directly onto South Avenue. And so we agree that would reduce queuing and traffic on Maple. And we're in the process, we're almost complete updating our model, and we will be resubmitting that back to the town for review. But that is a change that's also forthcoming. And so that concludes our part of the presentation.
And what are you looking for the police commission to do tonight? is this primarily informational?
Well,
this is what you would like to do, or this is it's proposed, or
well, first and foremost, it's the approval of the crosswalk. We understand that needs a review from this commission.
Yeah, this is Brian Smith. Yes, that's what we're looking for tonight from the police commission, would be the approval of the crosswalk. The other items are informational at this point in time.
I'm just curious, and I don't want to get deep into this because you're still back and forth to planning and zoning, but I'm just curious as to why there's no handicap parking, on the same side of the street as the new library, as the proposed library.
Yep, that's another proposed that's been a hot topic in all our discussions, and we have a proposal coming for the addition of 4 ADA spaces in the service area, and those will be on site.
I have a question. Oh, sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Can you please help me visualize, because I really don't see it. What is a raised sidewalk? Are we talking about, what is the height? I can't visualize what you're.
Yeah, if you're used to, standard curb and sidewalk, on any of the town roads, there's a step. If you were to step off mid-block, it'd be about a 6-inch step. Mm-hmm. What this does is it takes the same elevation on either side of the street, that 6-inch step, and it raises the crossing to that level. So there's no step. So it's completely accessible. Rather than ramping down, crossing a street and ramping back up, it's all at the same elevation. And so those have to be carefully located with other utilities and drainage patterns. You can't just raise the road without consideration. And this location actually works very well for that.
And Chris, if I could just add on, what that also does is it with vehicles, vehicles have it essentially becomes kind of a speed bump. It's abnormal to the normal pavement asphalt that the cars are driving on. So it's different from what they've been driving on throughout their path, and so it allows them to slow down and become aware that there is a pedestrian crossing there to reduce speeds on the road.
I have a question for Tiger.
I have a question. It's about a 6-inch speed bump, to use your description. Wouldn't it be easier to just ramp down? Normally when you cross a street, at the corners and so on, they lower the curb so you don't even have to step over it, and then you simply cross. I mean, why would we be creating this 6-inch heightened, speed bump?
Yeah, and that was the original proposal, was to do just that. But through discussions with the town and Mike Galante, really safety is paramount, and accessibility for one. It's easier to just be at grade, and secondly, as Chris just said, it does help slow traffic down. It gives an advanced warning. It's a different paving pattern, and it's not just part of the street. Even though people in normal crosswalks should be yielding, this further provides enhancement to that.
I wonder about that. I'm just, with all due respect, you're the expert, but you have a person walking across the crosswalk and a car approaching. They don't hit the elevated crosswalk until they've already run the person over. So it doesn't slow them down until they hit the crosswalk.
Yeah, it's a visual. It's an advanced. It's visual, and for people maybe going through here for the first time, yeah, maybe they realize it too late or something. But as this becomes part of the Maple Street infrastructure, that people will know that there's a slowdown here.
And will it be made so that it's a gentle enough incline so that people who have cars that are low to the ground won't have any problem with this and so on?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is not your conventional commercial plaza where they're just kind of dumped asphalt. They transition a few feet up. It's a few feet wide, and then it comes back down.
Okay.
I have a question for Tiger. Tiger?
Go ahead, Chief.
Hey, Tiger, if I'm not mistaken, this would be the only, if it were approved, raised crosswalk in town. And in light of that, does that present challenges for Public Works as far as maintenance?
It would be the only one in town. You're correct. And yes, it would. We were looking at initially, given the fact that all the accessible parking was on one side, we were looking at a safety measure to try to just more enhance or kind of join the campuses. This was one thought as to how to do that. But you are right. It's the only one. It would pose a problem for emergency vehicles as well, you know, since you have to slow. Yeah. It's basically a table, right? So you ramp up to it, you come across it, then you ramp down from it, right? So you have to drive up over it nice and easy. So it would reduce the speed as was mentioned, but at the same time, reduces your response, causes problems for me and my staff. Our secondary proposal, our thought to the designers at the library was to, if you can find room for the accessible spaces on the library side, then it would negate the need for the raised crosswalk, and we would just need a crosswalk at that point in time. We already have one. It would just be a relocated one and possible, you know, additional amenities with an RFB and things of that nature. But you could have it be a conventional crosswalk being flush with the pavement, whereby the curb ramps would ramp down to the pavement, and then you would walk across that grade and then come back up onto the sidewalk. So what we're looking at is if parking could be provided on the library lot, accessible parking on the library lot, then it would negate the need for the raised crosswalk.
Do we know what the number of required handicap spaces are for the library?
Well, they're in essence, the agreement was for 76 spaces on the center school lot. So if you took the 76 spaces, there would be 4 required on that. So if you looked at it in essence, that if they had to create a 76 space lot, how many spaces would be accessible for disabled? It'd be 4.
Right. Well,
how many?
Glad, yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Leon. Sorry.
I said, I'm glad they're going to add 4 spaces on the library side, because I'd hate to see handicapped people have to park in the center lot and then have to somehow manage getting across the street and into the library. So my opinion is the more handicap parking, the better for folks that are truly handicapped and want to use the library.
Right. Well, that was our suggestion, and they provided some sketches today to that, showing that that possibility, let's put it that way, to create 4 spaces on the library lot itself. Again, that would negate the need for the raised crosswalk. It wouldn't negate the need for the crosswalk. It would negate the need for the raised one.
Right.
Okay. How many handicap spaces are there now? Excuse me. How many handicap spaces are there now at the old
6.
library?
There are 6. We have 2 that are unstriped. So there's 4 that have a stripe and a sign, and 2 signs got knocked over and striping's missing. But it was originally marked out for 6, which is compliant with the number of spaces that is in the lot.
Right. Okay. Shikema?
Yes, Chris. I'm just again trying to visualize this because so how wide is the sidewalk, and does it have any kind of indication to tell people that it's actually kind of going down? Because I'm just worried about it being an ankle twister as a parent of kids who don't watch where they're walking and they come across this raised sidewalk. I'm just wondering visually, is a mark to say that it kind of tapers down?
Yeah, usually. So the ramps usually have what you would see, and there's standards for this. It's MUTCD and other standards that show basically an up arrow. I'm trying to think where you may have seen one. I know this would be the only one in town. If you're familiar with Elm Street, there's a couple of crossings there that have a paving pattern. I don't recall if that's stamped concrete, stamped asphalt or actual brick.
It's a stamped asphalt.
Stamped asphalt. Okay,
Yeah,
but it's
actually, yeah, it was a earlier version, which is a colorized asphalt actually that's stamped.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, it's just it's the same material, but it looks different because it looks like a brick pattern and it's a color change. So I'm not sure if you've been to those crossings, but the aesthetic of it would be similar to that. It would just be raised 6 inches. And it's the ramps are 6 feet coming up to it. If you're familiar with a, conventional ADA ramp, those are much more in a condensed way. So when you say ankle twisters, everything's at the same elevation. There's no step. You're crossing it in one surface, essentially.
So Chris, is this really then an ADA issue, or is this just a pedestrian traffic issue we're trying to solve?
I think it was both. There are ADA spaces; those are going to remain
there as well.
Yeah, we're looking to upgrade those spaces to the current standards, relocate them off the driveway that exits onto Maple. We'll provide a sidewalk connection from those spaces to this crosswalk. So there is the ADA issue, and then there's also the pedestrian crossing issue, and how, we have a number of ways that we're proposing to do it, and signage is probably one of the biggest. But this was just another layer, if you will.
If I may, to answer your question, why would we want to have the 4 spaces on site and still have the crosswalk raised with the 6 handicap spaces on it, for the accessibility? And I think it's because the people who are advocates for disability don't. Where we would have to put these spaces on the library side is sort of in the back, sort of around the back of the building a little bit, and it's more for accessibility to the library green, to the and if there are employees at some point in time who would have access to it, because that's where you would typically go in as an employee. But it also obviously serves a purpose of providing the 4 spaces needed, but we would be, by changing and adding and rearranging the 6 spaces in Center School lot, we are providing more accessibility altogether, which we think is the proper thing to do. So that's why we're asking for this. And that's for the accessibility part, the ADA part of it. Obviously the traffic calming measure is the other one that is important for Maple Street, that people don't speed up and down it. But I think, Lisa can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's pre-COVID, there was 800 people a day going in and out of the library. So it's quite a busy place. So.
And where's Michael Galante's letter, and what did he study?
Hi, I'm Mike Galante. I'm from Hardesty in Hanover.
I know you. Hey, Mike. Good to see you.
How
again.
are you? I've been around.
I know.
If I could just spend a minute or two talking about the crosswalk, and everything you've heard tonight is certainly the process the town's been going through, and we've been involved to some degree with that. The reason, I think the driving reason, if I can use that word for a moment, for putting a raised crosswalk across Maple Street from the parking lot was to accommodate the person in a wheelchair or some type of handicap crossing Maple Street in a safe manner. The raised crosswalk, keep in mind, it's not a speed hump like you see in shopping centers where it's an abrupt bump, you hit it and you go over it. This is a very gradual increase in pavement or height as you approach the crosswalk. You go over the crosswalk, which is at least 4 feet wide, and then you go back down on the other side. So the motorist would see it. It's a visual thing, different types of pavement treatments, the pavement markings that you normally have with a crosswalk, and then you have the pavement markings that go with a raised crosswalk, and then you have the signing that Chris mentioned. So it becomes a very visual aspect of Maple Street at the crosswalk itself. So it's not, if a person is driving, let's say a little too fast, they're not going to hit this crosswalk and lose control of the car. It's not that type of abrupt change. So I just want everyone to understand it's very gradual, and it's a very, very specific design that's used for this. And I think the reason for the consideration for the raised crosswalk is mainly because of the handicap spaces in the center school parking lot. I noticed some thoughts if you have, and I think I'm pretty sure Tiger already mentioned this, but if you had the handicap spaces in the back of the building, which it would be back of the library, you may not need the raised crosswalk. You would certainly keep the crosswalk and the signing that goes with it. Right. I guess that's a decision for the police commission to make. I think if you just have handicap spaces in the parking lot across the street, I would certainly recommend the raised crosswalk. If you have handicap spaces in the back of the library, and I hate to say the back of the library, but it would be the back of the library, you may want to reconsider, consideration of the raised crosswalk.
Okay. And this is more of a general question. Where does the library stand with planning and zoning and that process? And is this an appropriate step for us now when we don't know really what the final designs are for the library? Are we putting the cart before the horse here?
You want me to answer that, Tiger, or do you want to answer that?
You can. I think you're a little ahead. Yeah, I think that it hasn't. We've only gone through the public hearing aspect so far. I haven't finished the public hearing aspect of the commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission. They haven't even really delved into the plans yet, and I know that they respect the police commission and they're looking for commentary from the commission itself. But I think it might be a little bit premature to carry a vote today without having them even had the opening of the plans yet on their level.
Right, and look, I want to make sure that all parties understand that the police commission is here to help you and work with you. Right, we're not the we don't stamp yes, we don't stamp no. We're here to help come to a solution here. I don't know if we're at the point where we need to vote on this yet, because I don't think we have a final product that we're voting on. If you look at this and you look outside the box a little bit, gosh, on a map you could almost take Maple Street and slide it down a little. It'd be very expensive to do, and then put more parking spaces basically where Maple Street is. But that's not part of the deal here. And again, I think what we'd like to see is what the final plans are, or near final plans, and then come to some kind of conclusion. We're going to have a crosswalk there. It's just a question of is it going to be raised or not? So,
are there? And I know where we are in the process and what we've submitted and what we're about to submit and those kinds of things. Are there questions we can answer that would that can be locked in, if you will? We're committed to certain paving materials, the location, the width, the design of it. But are there unknown, what is going to be known in the next meeting that's not known now, I guess, from your perspective?
For me, I don't know what the unknown is, if you will. So what I would like to do is just think about this for a couple of weeks and get any other public comment on it, especially people who are going around Maple Street on a regular basis. I don't think we're opposed to it. I don't think we're for it. I just don't know yet. So
you're saying the input from the public?
Yeah, I'd like to hear some other input.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Paul, could I make a comment?
Yeah, yes, please, Kevin.
Hi. I thought Tiger was going to raise this. What's the process for reducing the speed limit on Maple Street? Because what is it, Tiger, 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour?
25, there's as we spoke before, to go down, you can go advisory by 5. If you go anything less, we need a study. We had Michael do a study for us on Elm Street, and we could certainly do one on Maple as well, but I think we'll find out that the speeds are not that, the 85th percentile anyways is not that high. But according to the MUTCD, we would need to have anything greater than a 5% reduction. We would have to have a study done.
Since this is the parking lot for the library,
right?
People are going to be going back and forth all day, all hours. And I see people going up Elm Street at 25 miles an hour. It just drives me crazy. I don't know what would prevent anybody from going up Maple Street 25 miles an hour.
Right.
Raised crosswalk would help.
Well, but why wouldn't 15? Well, you're in a zone where you're trying to tell people to slow down. This is what's the speed limit in a parking lot? You don't expect people to drive 25 miles an hour in a parking lot.
No, and basically you've turned Maple Street into the parking lot.
Exactly.
It's really the parking lot. It's really the driveway for the parking lot now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cut through, but it's really the driveway for the.
So I don't know who's. This is police jurisdiction, but as far as do the traffic engineers, Michael, speak to the issue as what a recommended speed limit should be for something where essentially this is a active crosswalk all day, all hours.
Yeah, well, it's part of the bigger picture, the pedestrian crossing, the potential for a raised crosswalk or simply a crosswalk. A raised crosswalk is considered a traffic calming measure and would indirectly reduce the speed of motors traveling on Maple Street. We haven't measured the actual speed on Maple. We have measured Elm Street actually, and that's a whole different story. I think we might touch on that tonight actually later on, but as Tiger mentioned, you can reduce it by 5 miles per hour as the yellow sign with the black number instead of the white sign with the black numbers, which is more regulatory. But quite frankly, does someone listen to a yellow sign that says, go different speed? No. I mean, the reality of it. But I don't know the speed on Maple Street at this point. So I couldn't say people are speeding or if we need to reduce the speed. That's really another study that really has been done by the applicant or us at this point in time.
Well, it's also a cut-through street. I mean, people
absolutely, without a doubt.
It's a shortcut to get, and so you combine the fact that it's the active crosswalk for the library, and it's a cut-through, and nothing stops people from going 25 miles an hour. It's just, in my view, too fast.
Right, and it is a public street, obviously, and it's serving not only the library, but as you said, it's people going from south to Main or Main to south, so it's functioning as a cut-through or a shortcut, without a doubt.
Okay. Any other thoughts, commissioners?
I guess another thing we might know if we wait is whether those additional handicapped spots will be located on the north side of the street on the library property itself. That I take it is something that's going to be determined. Yet to be determined?
Well, it will be proposed, but we don't know the comments to that.
All right, look, our number one concern here is safety, and that's what we're charged with. What I would like to propose is let me think about this, or let the commissioners think about this a little bit, and talk to Tiger and to Michael again, and just see if there's another solution here, or how to calm the traffic a little bit better than what it is right now. Because once you pave that street, the speed's going to pick up no matter what sign you put up there. Right now, it's all potholes and it's a mess, and it's going to be a mess all through construction. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a nice, clean, well-paved street and with a lot of pedestrian traffic on it.
Paul, I have one question. If someone can answer, maybe yep. Tiger. Of those 6 spaces that are currently on the library property, what's the percentage of use? Are they fully utilized? Is it 60% of the time? So, if we do 4, is that going to exhaust the need? And then will handicap people have to go somewhere else?
At present, it's difficult because the library has their own accessible spaces now, right? So in essence, they're parking there. The utilization in the center school lot for the accessible spaces is I would say they're underutilized, right? They're, the majority of the people parking in the center school lot are using it as workplace parking, right? But you're not necessarily.
What about on library site? How fully utilized are those spaces?
That would be a question for the library.
Do we know?
Lisa may know. Do you know, Lisa?
They're pretty underutilized. In the late morning, I've ever seen 2 being used at once. I can't remember ever having seen them all being used at once. Mm-hmm. And as I think Chris, one of the two pointed out, the ones on the north side, actually, having looked at the drawings that they did in the last 2 days, they definitely would be great for people wanting to go to the green. And they would be great if at some point in the future, I were to hire somebody who needed a spot. But the distance from those on the north side to the nearest public entrance of the building is considerably further than the distance from the ones in Center School lot to the front door. So it's on the same site, which is what was trying to be achieved here. And it helps if somebody was wanting to only go to the green. But in terms of proximity, the ones over in Center School lot, even with the proposed change today, which has them sliding around so that they're facing Maple Street, are still closer to the public entrance than the ones on the north side of the lot.
Good. Okay.
The other thing, since if I'm allowed to speak,
yes, please.
It's not only people who need accessible parking that we should be thinking about here. And I put in the chat, but I'm not sure if anyone else is looking. We have about 400 mothers and children a day coming to the library. So they wouldn't be using the handicap spots in Center School lot or on the north side of the building. They'd be parking just in Center School lot. And without obviously knowing anything about traffic engineering, I just thought you all should know that volume of children that'll be crossing that street every day as part of your contemplation.
Right. I mean, I don't know if the whole, again, this is out of the box a bit, but if that whole street should be a different type of pavement where it's going to slow people down. You know, I just don't know. That's why I'd like to think about this just a touch more and talk about it again, because again, I go through that street all the time to go around the lights. And now you're taking all of the traffic, foot traffic to the library crossing that street. It's a big change. And maybe if the surface of the whole street is different, almost like a cobblestone. Again, this is just me thinking here. That would slow the whole traffic down. And again, this is something to discuss at another time. But that's why I'd like to. I'm glad you brought this to our attention. What I'd like to do is table this and have a little bit more discussion again on it with some other input, if that's okay. Commissioners, agreed?
I would agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, let us think about this a little bit more, library committee, and we'll come back to you, or come back to us at our next month's meeting, and we'll come with some either other ideas or approve or disapprove it. How's that? And I would like to hear some other comments from the public, if that's possible.
Yeah.
There's always some good ideas out there that just haven't bubbled to the surface yet. Okay.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Brian. Thanks, Brian and Chris and Michael. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This just raises an issue that we'll come with a solution. There is a solution here for sure, and I just don't want to be rushed to it tonight, if that's okay. And there really is. We don't need a decision tonight. This is not that.
No, that's fine. When the question was asked, well, what are we looking for? That was what we were looking for, and we entirely agree with safety is paramount. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's why there might be another solution in here, and how to calm the traffic, because it really wasn't raised to me, or I didn't focus on it. That all of the library pedestrian traffic is now crossing Maple Street all day long. And that's just a new nuance that I hadn't focused on.
Only those who come in a car.
Well, yes, okay, but if they're walking up South Avenue and then coming across, they still got to cross Maple Street. And if they're walking up Main Street, they got to cross. So yes, but there's a lot of cars that go in and out of that library, which is great. I mean, that's a good thing. You want traffic, you want customers, and I just didn't realize they were really all going over Maple Street all day long, which let me just think about it, or let's think about it just a touch more, and then come back to you. How's that?
Very good. Very good.
Fair
Thank
enough?
you. Yep.
Hey, no, thank you. This is it's a great project. There's a lot going on here. We just want to get it done right the first time. I don't want to have to go in, take it out, put it in, put something else in. Let's just get it done right the first time. That's all.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
Chris, Michael.
Okay. Thank you.
Tiger. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Item number 2, the bump outs. Tiger, you want to go through that?
Yeah, I'll go through that. Tucker had to jump. She had to go over to the town council meeting. She just wanted me to let you know she
yeah,
had to roll.
that's yeah.
But Laura's here from the chamber.
Hey, Laura.
Jen, could you give me permission, please?
Yep, 1 second. Should be good. Give it a try.
Not yet.
Okay, give it a try now.
Right. Okay. I think we've got those in front of us. We do.
Yeah,
we do. Yep.
It got tweaked a little bit from the version that we sent you. We did another little tweaking this morning, as Maria did a little tweak after speaking to the highway department and a couple of others.
Okay.
So in essence, this is the area of that we're discussing or looking to make some amendments to. So at the bottom right hand screen, this is South Avenue coming into Elm Street, running across your screen, basically east to west. And so this is the intersection with South Avenue, and this is the crosswalk at the Playhouse over to Dunkin' Donuts and Dolce and others.
Right.
So what we have been looking at this as far as a bump out or things of that nature, pedestrian improvements in the downtown area for several years. And then we were asked to be part of a WestCog study with Darien to see about increased pedestrian improvements and then proposed bike route. And then they came through with a study. We put in an application for approval with the state for a grant. We were unsuccessful with it, but the study itself kind of came back with some of the ideas that we had already had. So this is out of their bike loop plan. And it shows this is South Avenue coming in to Elm Street, and you can see it actually proposes 2 bump outs and then one stretch at the intersection as well on the northern side of the intersection. So we looked at that a little bit further, and we utilized that for when we went to the downtown plan for COVID for our outdoor dining. And these markings were the sketch that we had to promote outdoor dining and to move the pedestrians out of the way in order to allow people to the restaurants to bump out, so to speak. Kind of combine the 2 plans or the 2 thoughts to a final rendition. And this is the rendition here again. Same thing, South Avenue coming in from the lower right and Elm Street running from right to left. We're looking at the southeast corner of Elm and South, a bump out. At the southwest corner, a bump out, and at the northern side, starting a bump out just east of the crosswalk and running the entire length all the way to the Playhouse itself. And then in front of Dunkin' Donuts, we will be looking at bump outs on either side of the crosswalk there. As you might remember, we had the concern that we were having parking within 25 feet of a crosswalk with a state law saying that that was not permitted. When you hardscape or bump out, that requirement necessarily starts to dissipate. There are some sightline issues that you have to consider, but by bumping out certain areas, we were actually able to increase parking in certain locations while there was a commensurate decrease in certain areas. So on the northern side, we looked at it and we lost 5 spaces. So you'll see in the sketch, it says 0 is what's proposed, 5 is what was there. So the yellow is what would be proposed, and the gray numbers of what was prior. So then on the southern side, at least on the block between South Avenue and Dunkin' Donuts, we're looking at having 11 spaces, the first one being accessible, versus 8 prior. And then if we look to the secondary block, basically east of the South Avenue Elm Street block here, we had 17, we'd be looking at 20. So it's actually almost a +1 at that point in time. We do show this area being boxed out or grayed out. That was in discussions with the highway department for snow placement. We needed areas to actually have the snow pile. And then we'll be looking at increasing some drainage on each area in front of each bump out to provide for melt and for storm water, to catch storm water, things of that nature. So as part of this plan, we had Michael Galante from Hardesty and Hanover come in, do a speed study on Elm Street, and then do a review of our plan itself, just to give a look to the traffic engineer side of it. We were looking at the aesthetics and the pedestrian safety, and we wanted to get into a little bit more of driver safety and take a look at it through his eyes. So before I hand it over to him, the last aspect of it was that if we looked at it a little bit holistically, now we're trying to look at all of Elm Street. We were approached after talking to the restaurants and others, some merchants, about having the first 2 spaces here, just east of South Avenue, the first 2 spaces in front of Dunkin' Donuts, and then 2 spaces mid-block between the crosswalk at Dunkin' Donuts and Park Street as being signed 15 minutes. So that would allow for your quick drop-in for either a cup of coffee or to get into a store, to a retail store to pick something up that you had ordered, takeout, things of that nature, and it would actually help a little bit with turnover on the street itself. So with that, I'll let Michael talk a little bit about his analysis, and then we can take questions if that's okay.
Tiger, thank you. Again, Mike Galante, Hardesty in Hanover. We reviewed the concepts for the bump outs, the locations of the bump outs at the South Avenue intersection, both at the corners and across the street from the intersection itself. Then at the mid-block crosswalk, which is existing, and looked at the bump outs on both sides of Elm Street to create that shorter distance for a pedestrian, more of a safety issue as far as visibility of the pedestrian and visibility from the vehicle to the pedestrian. And the concepts that are shown that we're looking at right now, we agree with. We originally had the one where we maintained the parking spaces on the north side of Elm between South and the Playhouse entrance, if you will. But we certainly understand the benefit of continuing that curb line, if you will, as in a straight line. One, it helps as far as control of the travel lanes. It helps with the outdoor dining and certainly pedestrian circulation on the sidewalk itself. The sidewalk is narrow, and when you put chairs and tables and heaters and so on, the walkway does get narrow. And being out there, I've seen pedestrians kind of step into the street where the parked cars are in order to go around things. So after looking at this more than a couple of times, I agree with the concept of connecting the 2 bump outs on the north side of Elm Street. We originally did not see that, but we certainly understand that is a benefit, and I would agree with it, actually. So from the perspective of the bump outs, where they're shown in the concept here, and of course the crosswalks be maintained where they are essentially, we agree with that. We agree with the parking layout as far as the modifications, the area shown for the snow melt area, if you will. And the next thing we did, based on discussions with Maria and Tiger, we actually went out and did speed studies in March, from March 23rd to March 29th. We put the actual video cameras out there, which measures not only the volume of traffic, but the speed of the cars and vehicles driving on Elm Street. We placed one between Main and South, and we placed one pretty much where the crosswalk is at the Playhouse. And what we look for in traffic terms is, what is the 85th percentile of the speed of motors traveling on this road? And the best way to describe that is, if you have 100 cars, we have, what is the highest speed of the 85 cars, and the remaining 15 cars or vehicles would be something over that 85th percentile speed. And we tend to design roads as far as sight lines and overall safety based on that 85th percentile speed. This road, although it's not posted for 25 miles per hour, is 25 miles per hour. And what we found from the speed studies, the actual 85th percentile speed between Main and South Avenue was 13 miles an hour. And at the crosswalk, the 85th percentile speed was 15 miles per hour. Now that measurement and those results are based on, I don't have the number, but it's based on thousands of samples over a several day period. It's not just based on, a 10 or 20 car sampling, which is the way we did it years ago, to be very honest. And we've expanded on that over the years based on discussions with Connecticut DOT. We do these types of studies for sightlines for all different types of development, and it's really the best way of doing it. So the actual speed of motors, again, the 13 and the 15, that's the highest speed of the 85th percentile. So people that, if I'm saying 15 miles per hour, there are 85 cars that are, some of the cars are driving less than the 15, but there are 15 cars driving potentially more than 13 or more than 15 miles per hour, depending on the stretch of road we actually measured. So what we found, and to be honest, we weren't surprised, the speed was about 15 miles per hour on Elm Street. It didn't surprise me at all. Certainly answer questions.
On the bump outs, where you've got it where it says 20 or 19 or 20 on the corner of Elm and South, what would that look like? Is it raised, or is it come from the street and then rises, or is it a hard granite bump out there?
Right. So yeah. So all the bump outs shown would have a granite edge. Right now we have granite on the edge, so it would be granite coming all the way around, and it would be at the level of the sidewalk. Okay, the present sidewalk. So it would be 6 inches above the road
where it currently is.
Around, right, and then there would be a curb ramp here to cross this crosswalk, and a curb ramp here to cross this crosswalk. Similar with each one. The only one that we have that would be flush is this bump out here.
Okay.
Because of the accessible spot. Because of this accessible spot, this portion, while it would have a granite edge and would be bricked, you would be able to dismount your vehicle, get out of your vehicle into the accessible aisle, and then come across here instead of having to go around. We wanted this to be able to be mountable. This side of the bump out would be 6-inch height across. So it's just this one little piece. Because of accessibility, we kept flush.
It looks like it gets real tight, right? If you're coming north on South Avenue, right, and you're making the turn to the left on Elm.
Talking here.
Yeah, it's going to be new. That's going to be tight.
Again, it's a concept, and we would take this sketch. Maria's done a very nice job on all these renditions, and run some turning templates on it. It was suggested to have a school bus make a turn. And then we usually use a larger vehicle, or fire trucks and apparatus don't necessarily travel this road. Our engineering firm that we use, Cabezas de Angeles, has that turning template for our fire vehicles, and he can run the turn. And then at that point in time, we can set the radius of these curbs to make sure that we can make these turns.
And one thing just to support what Tiger is saying, at the intersection of Elm and South, you can actually see that one white vehicle that's just entering into the crosswalk.
Right.
They're entering in mid crosswalk because they're crossing over the lane. By having these bump outs, you actually align the car better with the lane, and it's added pedestrian safety as well. So we will most certainly show the turning templates. It is definitely going to be an education, Justin, that's going to be different for the driver, but it is going to actually control them by putting them in the lane and not being in areas where pedestrians would be.
Okay, I see that. Yep.
Maria,
commissioners?
Maria,
Jim?
You work for the town. I don't think I've met you before.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Yes,
Maria's
good
the town
evening.
engineer.
I'm sorry. Okay, good. Well, I don't think I've met you before.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Just to go back to the beginning, the reason we're looking at doing this, if I understand correctly, are two. One, the WestCog group wants to promote bicycle paths and bicycle usage. And second, pedestrian safety. Is that
actually it was first and foremost was the pedestrian safety. It just happened that while we were looking at doing some a connected bike route between the two towns, it was suggested by Westcog to do a study. And they came in and did the study for us for pedestrian improvements and a bike loop, so to speak. And part of that plan showed exactly what we had been thinking about, which was to get back to a previous slide, which was to show the bump outs at the South Avenue and Elm Street intersection, basically what we show here. So the study basically reinforced what we had already been studying and told us that we were pretty much on the right path. But the primary goal is pedestrian safety in and around the downtown area. And I think it'll be a nice enhanced feel, give it a little bit more of a village feel as well. That's a secondary benefit.
Right. And would you put in flower pots or something like that, something low, just to kind of, so it's not so stark?
Right. We would be looking at additional amenities. There's other renditions that show planters or, an area for a bike rack and maybe some enhanced seating, things of that nature. Sure. But we wouldn't leave them void.
Otherwise it's just like and then you don't really see it and you're hitting it and it's,
okay. Correct.
I'm looking at the slide that you have up. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me it would interfere with people driving. So now let's say you're coming up South Avenue or you're coming this car that's parked, now that car wants to go left on Elm. He's got to go out further left to get around this bump out. And then you have a car turning like this white one. That car is going to have to go. It just seems like they're going to be in each other's way and they're going to have to navigate around because they have a much more narrow road there.
To Maria's point, this car wouldn't be able to be here at that point because he'd be driving straight through the curb line. So he would, in essence, have to make a wider turn. This car coming out of the parking space would have to then coincide with this car here that might be at a stop sign, but that happens already, whereby they both don't enter. It isn't a double turning lane here. This car would have to wait for this one or be granted access to come across. Right. So it still happens. It happens now. It just, it would be forced at our time, but it happens now.
Yeah. But I guess one sort of general question I have is, I wasn't aware until tonight that we had a pedestrian safety problem.
Well, what we have is we don't necessarily have a pedestrian safety problem, but we have an issue whereby all of these striped areas that we have to increase and enhance the pedestrian environment and open up the sight lines and prevent people from backing into crosswalks are being abused. So we're getting cars parking in all these areas, which then negates the safety aspect of what we're trying to accomplish. The only way to then get the safety aspect back is to actually hardscape it to prevent access. So our biggest offenders are right here in front of Dunkin' Donuts. This area is completely hashed now for the 25 feet. This is continually abused, whereby now we've got some fence posts and chain link up in the area to try to prevent that. It's the only way to try to do it, in our opinion, and to do it safely and correctly. And given the fact that we just went through COVID and proved that it actually works traffic flow wise, because prior to that, we had barricades from, in essence, Pass Soleil all the way down through here. So we already had it marked off with barricades. So it's already been proven to work and be effective. Now we're just trying to do it in a permanent nature and get rid of at that point, we would be able to get rid of the white barricades.
Would your plan include this bike path that they'd like to have or not?
We would look at possibly doing the bike. They have a bike loop that went out of town. They have one that connected us with Darien. Their improvements in and around the downtown area, we still had some concerns with. The majority of their Their improvements were all striping, shared lanes. They're called sharrows. You know, they put in a sharrow, which is a bike with a couple of chevrons below it. Says it's a shared lane between the bike and the car, and the motorist. So we would be looking at trying to increase some of that work, but it's not part of this.
It's not part of the discussion tonight.
Not part of this proposal. No, we would, if and when we decide to do that, we'll come back with a separate proposal for that. I think the easiest place to do first would be the out of town loop that they proposed, and possibly the connection between New Canaan and downtown Darien. It was almost a straight shot down 124.
Yeah, I'm pleased to hear that, because I would think that from a safety standpoint, one of the worst things we could do is encourage bicycle riding down on Elm Street, which is probably the busiest quarter mile of road in town. It's the center of town. You have cars from morning till night coming and going, backing out, parking, etc. And the idea of encouraging people to be riding bikes through all of that, to me, would be an accident waiting to happen. So I would hope that you don't move forward with that part of it.
At present, it's not part of the proposal. Right now, it's the amendments that you see in front of you. And if we were to look at increasing a bike route or laying out a bike route in town, it would most certainly come back to the commission for approval, for review, comment, and then approval. But it's not part of our discussion at present.
Okay. All right. I think we've got plenty of information, Tiger. Thank you. What I would like to do is to hear any input from the public, and if any public is on, we'd like to hear. And if they're not, what I would like to do, Tiger, is suggest that the commissioners just do a walkthrough, a physical walkthrough with you on this, because we've been in town for 30 years. So I know what you're trying to get accomplished here, but I think it would be helpful for the 3 of us or 4 of us or 5 of us to do just a quick walkthrough and to visually see where these bump outs would be and the heights. And I think if we could arrange that over the next couple of weeks before our next meeting, and then we can take a more intelligent vote on it then, and then also get some input from the public as well. Because this is this is a bit of a change. And
I think Laura from the Chamber of Commerce might have some comments.
Yeah, Laura?
Yeah, so we had, I hosted a meeting, just as a little background. I have a pretty extensive database of first floor retail, restaurant, salon, etc. email lists. So I took every email address I had for Elm Street as well as South Avenue, and invited them to a Zoom meeting with Tiger and Maria. Tucker was there. And, just like Tiger and Maria did tonight, they took them through the plan, got some comments, suggestions. It was not as well attended as we would have liked, but I think the feedback was pretty positive. All they care about is that there's no loss of parking spaces. They're still so upset about what we lost originally. And the concept of the 15-minute spaces is something that many of them have been asking for, because they've got so many customers that get frustrated that they can't find a spot when they're just trying to pick up, or if they want to pull up and have a merchant come out and bring them a package, they're getting ticketed, because there's no pedestrian loading zone. So generally, and then I did follow up, Paul, I recorded the meeting that we had where Tiger and Maria presented, and then I sent them all the link to the recording. So if they weren't able to make the meeting, they could look at the discussion and of course follow up. So, the main thing they care about is no loss, no net loss. I think what'll happen is some of the restaurants who were not in this zone are gonna say, oh, gee, keep it coming. They've really all enjoyed the advantages of having that barrier there. Obviously, the stores don't want any loss. So I think this is a nice compromise. And I think we've sort of had a dress rehearsal with this for the past year with the pedestrian pathways as it's going. So if you guys take this up again, I can invite them to the next I think we even mentioned that we would be presenting tonight, that Tiger and Maria would be presenting tonight. And I can certainly, if you take it up again, send a specific invite to them regarding, you know, if they'd like to make a comment.
Good. I think that'd be helpful, just so that we cover all our bases. And I know, yep, Laura, you do a great job communicating with the businesses from the chamber, but sometimes some people feel as though they never got a chance to do it. As you know, right, there are groups out there that do that, and we want to give them the opportunity. I think the outcome is going to be the same. I mean, I think where we're all heading is to get this approved, but let's just do it. I just wanted to have one or two more steps before that happens, just to cover all our bases. If that's
happy to do that.
Great. I think it's a good idea, and what I'll circle with Jennifer, I guess, and try to help get your schedules, and then we'll plan a time. It's as Maria was noting, it's an excellent time since the barricades are out, right? So you can visualize almost where they would be, and then we can tell you them. Right. You can see the curb material, you can see the brick material, you can see exactly the heights, what we'd be looking at, and then we can kind of walk through each one, and and you can visualize it at that point. So I think it's an excellent idea, and so we'll look forward to doing that.
Right. Yeah. That way, there's no misconception and no misunderstanding. We all will all be on the same page and move forward from there. And if it, so that'd be great. Okay.
I have another question though, Tiger, if I could keep you just for another. We've had discussion in the past about the newly striped areas that we had to stripe, and the fact that trucks use those to make their deliveries. They either pull in partial way. I mean, what I observe is they might park in the lane, or they might pull in on part of that space, and because there's no car in the way, they unload their truck there. What would be the impact on the truck deliveries?
Well, they would be prevented from parking, basically now they're in essence kind of parking across the crosswalk. Anywhere where we striped, they've been abusing the privilege, so to speak. So they would be prevented from that. That's the pedestrian enhancement and the safety. They're already double parking on the street. That would continue. That wouldn't stop, I would imagine. This doesn't deter it, doesn't prevent it, and it doesn't exacerbate that problem by any stretch of the imagination. But it would prevent them from utilizing the striped areas where we're trying to keep them out. This plan would prevent that.
Okay.
Laura, I don't know, Laura, if you have anything else to add on that.
Yeah, my office is right across the street from Bank of America. I'm second floor of the Playhouse. And what we have seen in that space is unbelievable. I saw a landscaper pulling a trailer, just pull in the other day. The Brinks truck from Bank of America on the other side of the street, the Playhouse side of the street. There's delivery trucks there all day. Essentially, as I said, we've had a dress rehearsal with that space not being available for parking. It does get a little crazy, but I think overall, everyone is used to this flow, and I think it'll make a huge difference. We literally, at one point before Tiger and Moe's put out the chains, the fencing and the chains, we would see people, we put a bike rack in the striped area, and they would get out of their car, move this big, heavy industrial bike rack, and then pull their car in illegally. So I think this is going to go a long way to making that a much safer environment.
Agreed. Okay, so let's move on then. We'll get together with you, Tiger. Laura, if there's any other questions, please just shoot them into me or call me.
Okay.
And we'll get a site visit over the next couple of weeks, and then take a vote on this next meeting.
Excellent.
Great.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Tiger, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So let's move on then to department monthly reports. Chief.
You're muted, Leon.
Got it. First report I have is our budget. We should be at 74.97. We're actually at 71.70. So we're under budget slightly. couple of lines we're going to need to transfer money into. We're either low or a little short, but we'll do that within our own budget. So that's not an issue or a concern. And animal control is at 68.60. So that's also under budget. So both budgets look good.
Right. Yep. No, overtime and everything. This is amazing. It's good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Next.
Next report I have is monthly statistics. So I'll just highlight some. Family dispute 9 versus 9 same year. So that's consistent. Larceny from motor vehicle 13 versus 8. So that's up slightly. And motor vehicle property damage 79 versus 66. So that's an uptick. We're certainly seeing more traffic compared to last year, same time. So that's likely going to continue to rise. Good news is injury accidents are down 4 versus 12. So that's certainly good news. Hope that trend continues. Psychiatric problems 15 versus 15. So that's pretty flat compared to same time last year, but that's still a relatively high number compared to previous years, same time. Stolen vehicles 9 versus 1. And within the last few days, we had several more stolen vehicles. So that number is going to continue to rise. They stole some vehicles, keys were in them, stole stuff from vehicles, stole stuff from mailboxes. So they keep coming to town and committing these crimes because our residents just aren't locking their cars and securing their keys. So it makes it easy for them. And recently they left a stolen car from Bridgeport. So these folks are coming from Bridgeport, stealing cars here, dropping off stolen cars and continuing on with that whole cycle.
Hey, Chief, just before you move on school check, I just had never really focused on it. It was, if I'm reading this right, 28 versus 12?
Yeah.
What is a school check?
It's just an officer will.
I think I know what it is, but
yeah, they'll just drive by or stop in West School, East School. Typically, the high school not, or Saks no, because there's SROs there. But the other schools where there's not a SRO, we have liaison officers that are liaisons to those schools. So sometimes it's them, and sometimes it's just other officers who are stopping by or driving through to check the school and make sure everything's okay.
No, I did not know what it was. Okay, thanks. Yep.
Next report I have is staffing report. So lost time is 17%. So that's much lower than previous years, same time. And that's largely due to we're fully staffed and at this point in time. And minimum shift was 41, so 45% of the time. That's lower than previous years because of our staffing levels. So right now we're in good shape staffing wise, so that will continue to be a positive report. Next report I have is extra duty aging. There's roughly nearly 90,000, that's 31 days or older. So I know our finance department is going to do a good job, and those numbers are lower than what they have been. But there's still a fair amount of money that needs to be collected, especially that 21,000 over 120. So we'll continue a good work from our finance department and keeping on top of that. Next report I have is false alarm aging. There's around 11,500, 31 days or older past due, with a pretty substantial amount of 10,850. That's over 120. And we'll continue to remind our finance department to stay on top of those collections as best they can. That's all I have for monthly reports.
Great. Let's go on to building renovation update.
Sure. Building committee continues to meet monthly. I think our next meeting is May 13th, and doing good work and moving along with the possibilities of a new building or renovate existing or new building somewhere else. Those are all possibilities, and it's not quite clear exactly what direction we're going in, but I'm thankful for the support from the first selectman in the town and all the folks on the building committee of a much needed new building or renovation, because our officers certainly deserve it. And even more so now today than ever before, given all the focus and difficulties of being a law enforcement officer. So
that's right.
I'm hopeful for that happening and moving forward as quick as possible.
Animal control shelter update.
We continue to have a conversation with the vendor, and we're close to an agreement. We're not quite there. A few more details are being nailed down. And the next steps would be have an agreement drafted by the town attorney, send it to the vendor as he's comfortable with it. Ultimately, you guys will see the agreement, and the Board of Selectmen will have to sign off on that, because the first selectman is the signing authority for any kind of agreements like that. And but it's promising, and it'll be an option B. I don't think it'll replace our shelter currently, but it'll certainly be a viable option, and something that we're continuing to explore. So I'm hopeful next month we'll have a little more progress on that item.
Great. No, I think it's a great solution. Deputy Chief Federico, road construction.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the Route 123 construction project and the major detour we've had over the past week and a half. The first day was a little chaotic, as we expected, just once getting everything in place, getting the actual road closed. So it was a little hectic that first morning, but the construction company and the state DOT representatives were on site and on hand and very accommodating to all of our requests. We did find that a significant amount of traffic is using Parade Hill Road, Owen Oak, Lambert, and Country Club. That's not the designated detour route, but it's kind of a de facto one, especially for people that are familiar with town and know how to get through and around the construction site. So they did put a few more signs in those locations to assist with motorists, but I put out speed counters, and we have seen certainly obviously an uptick on traffic volume. The traffic volume on Canoe Hill Road typically this time of year is about 500 cars a day, and it's gone up to about 1,500. So it has tripled. The good thing is the speeds are somewhat reasonable, staying within the accepted range for us. But we are still, I have hired officers on overtime to conduct speed enforcement on the detour routes and to assist motorists and be out there and have a presence out there. So all in all, I think it's going along pretty well, better than expected. And we're a week and a half into it, and the good thing is it looks like they're on time, and they should finish on time. So there's nothing that I've heard that indicates that they're going to go any longer than the expected time, which is May 2nd. So we're on time, and traffic seems to be flowing. I getting occasional complaints from people on the roads, Canoe Hill Road, Parade Hill Road. Obviously, they're not used to having 3 times the amount of volume of traffic, but we're doing our best to manage it, and it's going to be over pretty soon. So we'll get through.
Is there any possibility of getting reimbursed for the overtime per hour?
That's a good question.
Can we bill the state? Can we bill somebody else?
I can look into that. I don't know. It was just something that I felt like I needed to do this week, especially because we have so many officers that are on a department-wide training this week. So I had a lot of officers that are training while they're on duty, and I had limited staff this week. So I wanted to ensure that we didn't lose any enforcement time. So I kind of took that extra measure on my own, but they've been very accommodating on hiring officers on site. They've been open to us and any of our requests to do that. So I can look into it.
You could, if you could say, the request comes from the commission.
Okay, we'll do.
That's why not? You got to ask. If you don't ask, nothing happens.
Sure.
Okay, Chief, back to you. Letters of appreciation.
Sure. One of the highlights of our meetings every month. Nice letter for Officer Caponera and Obando from the Ambulance Corps for assisting with a transport and a medical assist call. And certainly we are very thankful for the Ambulance Corps and their volunteers for helping us, and anything we can do to help them during an incident like was described. It's very thoughtful of our officers, and they did a great job there. Next note I have is from our state's attorney for Officer Hom, our animal control officer. And the state's attorney pretty much has a glowing note here regarding what a great job she does. And she's very appreciative of her hard work and dedication, and how carefully she helped her with a case regarding animal cruelty and other things. So special thanks to Officer Hom for that. And it's pretty rare for us to get a note from the state's attorney, so that's a nice thing to see.
Yeah, at least a nice note anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll take that.
Right.
We'll take any nice notes. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Any other matters to discuss? Any other matters from the public to discuss? Okay, hearing none. Let's go into executive session for a few minutes. All right. Let's go into executive session at 7:30.
Okay, 1 second while I pause the recording. Okay,
Brown?
Go ahead. Yep.
All right, we're going to vote to come out of executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I have any other matters to discuss?
None here.
None. Let's have.
Can we publicly recognize Jennifer for Administrative Professionals Day?
Yeah, is that what it is today? You get a.
Here's a bouquet of flowers.
3 stars. Yeah.
There's a day for everything now.
You deserve a day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hey, all right. So a motion to adjourn.
So have a great night.
Right. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you all. We'll see you soon. Bye.